Okay, so after the last part, and I might actually title this differently because it's not a big investigation, but it's just a full investigation about this one particular topic, the term the Great Reset and the brand of the Great Reset. And before I get into that, I should actually note, because I haven't actually gone into the update of this, I had started looking into the Gendenloos Dutch case of the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, the UN court that made the laws universal, and the Treaty of Rome universally universally applied, shall we say, not just to member states. I started looking into that, and I've looked into it to a point, but I still need to continue that work. There's just so many different branches at this point with what I'm looking into because of the opening of World War II and World War One, but mostly World War II. I can go, as I said, I can go into that deeply about the CIA and the Dulles and the full infiltration or interference of CIA America and MI6 UK before, after, and during the World War II, making this a complete and utter orchestration by both sides, but mostly by the British for the Crown. And when the negotiations happened during Operation Sunrise, it was at the Vatican, the Pope, for the surrender of Germany. And there was a discussion held with Karl Wolff, who had the Iron Cross from the Hesse clan, or Hesse clan, by the Grand Duke, and under Dulles for a career move, which I think, has paid off a great deal. Because after all of that work that he's done for, he's almost like a David Astor, of America. And then he, operated and planned the Central American juntas. I think if I was to ever portray evil much more than Hitler, Hitler was nothing compared to these people like this. Pure evil. Even Prince Bernhard, just pure evil. These are like series and numerous occasions of manipulating and hurting people's lives, but torture and sadistic pleasures and just the worst kinds of controls and just awful things. If I was to ever think of the most inhumane things of this world, I would think of the military juntas of of Argentina and all those Central American countries. Just the worst things. Yeah. So that was definitely an American CIA operation, and any military junta seems to be of American CIA origin. And that was like a new measure. You've got the terrorism, and you've got famine, and you've got concentration camps, all done by the British Empire, by the British intelligence over the years, over the centuries. And then you've got, the military juntas that were created with, it was kind of like I'm feeling like a signature move. And the torture that was trained for Videla was trained with torture tactics and stuff like that by the CIA. So it's all done through the CIA, these sorts of tactics. So we've got that. We've got the Gendenloos. The thing I really want to point out at this point with the Gendenloos case is the fact purely that the ICJ, or the Court of International Justice, or whatever you want to call it, the UN law, Treaty of Rome, that was established only 5 years prior to this court case happening, where a shitty, outdated company in Netherlands asked if the laws could apply to non-member countries, so they could sue another company for, I think it was tariffs or the import levy, or I can't remember what exactly it was, but it was an international case. The country they were suing was not a member state of the UN, and they asked for it to apply. It's a very staged theatre. Just by that, the prosecutor, the judge, they were like the three main players of that case were all Dutch. So it's very biased. You've got a Dutch company, you've got pretty much a whole Dutch orchestration. But the ICJ was established 5 years prior to that. And within those 5 years, they had 5 court cases. 5. So you would deem that ineffective. You would deem that null and void. So you can already tell that the ICJ was just a weapon, a means, and that was the plan all along to make to use the court and the supposed law to make UN and to make the Treaty of Rome universally applicable and to control EU. Also, I did fail to mention that Middle Europa, that whole strategy and framework that was framed around 1914 was used to create EU. There were frameworks put in place to then create EU, and that's why Germany is the fort of EU, is the base of EU, because of everything that was put into place. So putting that all aside, I'm going to go through what I did today, which was about the Great Reset. Now, I don't even know how I started thinking about this, or when I did a drink of juice. Give me a second. I don't even remember how it came to be. But obviously it's a thought that's, that reoccurs when you look into this stuff a lot. I think it was about the Great Reset. And really, that was it. Do you remember in 2020 when the Great Reset, when Prince Charles's Great Reset was shown with him at the Davos WEF conference? He used the fleur-de-lis ostrich feathers with the Sustainable Goals circle as a crown, and the ostrich feathers as a part of the crown on top of it. And that was the logo for the World Economic Forum. And I was trying to prove alone just through that the World Economic Forum, despite his father co-founding it with Bernhard and Strong, and was all about Club of Rome, environmental eugenics being played out, that it was a Prince of Wales or Prince Charles concept. I didn't actually know at the time that was when the Great Reset actually commenced. I really didn't put that together because all I've seen is pictures thereafter, and all these things. And I was tried to look into the trademarking of that Sustainable Goals. I know that it first was established in 2012, and by 2015 it was really launched as the Sustainable Goals and Agenda 2030. So 2015 we're looking at around the same time that all of the WEF social movements were happening that were creating the climate change scam as real, with shills like Russell Brand supporting these social movements, and the Virgin guy, I can never remember his name, Richard Branson, all involved in all this hoo-ha, but it was a full orchestration, and that was really the start of climate change. So Agenda 2020, the recommencement of climate change, 2015-ish. And I wanted to look into it and see like how it all came to be. Because I'm like, the Great Reset, whose was it? Is it really Prince Charles's? Because a lot of people say it's Prince Charles's Great Reset. I was like, I'm not really sure if that is just someone saying because he was there that it was his reset, and because he's profiting from all the wind farms and pretty much monopolising the market and calling for net zero policy in UK, and obviously got what he wanted, that is all because of him. And I looked into the whole storyline of the Great Reset, and the storyline goes like this. Supposedly Prince Charles, or World Economic Forum, stole a marketing campaign led by a grassroots organisation of people that would come to the pub regularly every month or whatever, to talk about how to create a social movement of climate change in the UK. And it was meant to be this it's very soft power. It's very much like the Davos, like the climate change social movements I was just talking about in 2014, 15-ish. It's like, I think 15. It's like that exact same, like they're trying to create this individual ownership of a Crown orchestrated policy change. They're trying to get you to believe in it and think that you're the one steering it, and you're the one mobilising it and needing it and demanding it, for the policy then to change, and for you to go, yeah, I fully support it. Oh yeah, no, I believe this. All this predictive programming, right? So they were saying that this whole campaign that was meant to be done by this little company called Purpose Disruptors. It was just like this different, completely separate campaign that was done to change the way we socially look at change after COVID. And it was to do with being more sustainable. It wasn't even to do with climate change. It was to do with being just more sustainable, more ergonomic, just a little more, just making those changes in your life for your welfare and your well-being. Now that COVID's happened, and it was all a response to COVID. So this has to be post 2020. And the campaign launched early June 2020. And they don't really want to talk about that, or they don't give you those times or those dates, because that was the exact time that Prince Charles also launched the Great Reset of WEF. And you look into it and you find out, well, I found out that, I found out many things. So firstly, Purpose Disruptors was a company that was registered only in March 2020. So March, April, June, 1 month before they all of a sudden had this massive campaign. This campaign was initially, when I started researching, was partnered with a company called Iris, or corporation called Iris Worldwide. And then I read into it, and it's about this the Purpose Disruptors is meant to be like this non-for-profit kind of movement and charity, but it isn't. It's a registered company of hundreds of ad and creative and marketing agencies coming together to create a movement towards enforcing climate change and net zero policy, the 1.5 degrees Celsius bullshit, Paris Convention, Agenda 2030, literally. But that wasn't, in the end, what's been marketed. They've taken down the website of the Great Reset, which was a part of the campaign. They've taken down the PDF report that you can't get anymore. So you can't see how it was all done. But that alone is suspicious and questionable once you think, well, why the fuck would UK, all of UK, the whole industry of creative ad and marketing agencies, independents and large companies, all of a sudden work together to create a nationwide movement that is to deceive the public? Why are you trying to mobilize this movement? What was happening at the time? Obviously, you've got WEF and Prince Charles coming out and going, climate change is real and really urgent, and you need to do something. You need to pay us. You need to pay for the wind farms that we're going to get billions and trillions of profit from, and derive my new income from. And little did you know at that time that Earthshot was coming, and that it all needed to be legitimate and convincing. So all these things were going to come into play, and there needed to be reasons for that. But the timing is very, very important. And also the details of who sponsored this and who was involved is really important as well. So let me just go into that to start off with. So I think it's just before continuing that we've already established that Prince Bernhard was actually an SS officer, and co-founded WEF through Nature Trust 1001 with Prince Philip. Also received Nazi funds through WWF, which is also Prince Philip's organization as well. Safe to say that anything WEF with, many German Nazi affiliations is a Nazi affiliated operation. And so that's also something to consider when considering the fact that both King Charles and Prince William are advocating or are representing this forum, organization, company, establishment, agenda, environmental eugenics strategy through this, whatever this is. So originally, a very good starting point is the fact that I'm going to expose the lie around the whole story behind the Purpose Disruptor campaign storyline. That's meant to have no relation to the actual Great Reset. It has everything to do with the actual Great Reset, and that it was in response to COVID. It wasn't in response to COVID. It was before it was registered as a company in March 2020. It was its Twitter account was actually created in June 2019, and all of its attempts to start this movement, which was a climate change movement, aligned with the goals of Paris Convention and Agenda 2030 for WEF, completely aligned. It was actually in their letter the open letter that was signed by all leaders of all these agencies to enforce this campaign, which will be the campaign, and was meant to look like it was some organic grassroots campaign and project that was done through the voice of the people. That was all done prior to COVID. It was done in 2019. Then COVID came, and they used COVID as a push that all of a sudden our priorities and our values had aligned with their campaign. So how I interpret that is it didn't work out initially. There was no real grounds and no real real motivation for anyone to move towards this scam that is climate change and the WEF agenda. And so they exploited and took advantage of COVID, which was also an orchestration. They took advantage of that to then try to create social change and a social movement towards environmentalism. Like somehow that was now more important because we cared more about, I guess, our well-being or the environment for some reason, when a lot of people could barely afford to survive and have businesses closed and stuff. Anyway, so it was all a project in an effort already by 2019. So that debunks the lie of the COVID, and also that it was more organic than it was just to do with social change rather than literal climate or policy change. Now, it was actually called as well the Great Turning back in 2019 before they rebranded it as the Great Reset. So this was all a part of the campaign itself, where they changed the name and the branding and the logo. This to me speaks like they needed some sort of social movement to back the Agenda 2030, so we would be more inclined to approve of policy change, of things that were going to go ahead, like the wind farms and King Charles's income, all these things that are happening to make you believe more of what is taking place, and that it's normalized and it's a part of world change when it isn't. So it then makes you think as to who would be behind something like that. If this is UK wide, this campaign, which it was, and a whole industry, well, cross industry, because you've got ad, marketing, creative industries all in one to join together to create this big branding campaign. You would have to understand that, obviously, I'm sure of it, that Prince Charles at the time would be actually asking for this, or behind this whole effort. So when it was the Great Turning in 2019, Iris, which was one of the companies that was the main players of this campaign, said that from the very start that D&AD funded this campaign, this whole effort, and they actually then started their new bloodlines department or campaign or awards with it. And I didn't know what the hell D&AD was, and what it is that it is design and art direction. Literally, British Design and Art Direction, a British educational organisation or charity that was created in 1962 to promote excellence in design and advertising. Its main offices are in Spitalfields in London. It's most famous for its annual awards, the D&AD pencils, which was also created by someone who's a member of World Economic Forum, by the way. He co-founded it. The highest award given D&AD, the Black Pencil, is not necessarily awarded every year. So that being said, we already know that it's like some sort of public foundation or organisation in the UK, and that charity is funding this kind of really big, what seems to be politically steered and only motivated by Prince Charles's father's WEF. It seems to be completely steered by politics and by Prince Charles. So that kind of makes a lot of sense. And along with it, I think, let me just have a look at these pictures here so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So July 13, 2019, Purpose Disruptors, their social media account, which was opened in June that year, is reposting about Prince Charles telling us that we only had 18 months at the time to save the world, and warns Commonwealth leaders. Yeah, you can tell that this is legit. June the 14th, 2019, how can the advertising agency help us limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030? We're hosting a climate crisis summit with senior leaders to discover practical ways we can make a difference. Sign up. This is really interesting. This is not about just this soft kind of like social change and about COVID. This is before COVID, and it's to do with the Agenda 2030, but it's very, very strong. So at this time, you're thinking, okay, June 14th, 2019, what took place at that point? But it's definitely, that's the operation, that's the goal. And it's obviously steered. I like this. September 10th, 2020, over 150 people are currently pledging their interest in the Great Reset. Create the Reset was the hashtag for the campaign that was created to enforce it. Right now, we have a small window of opportunity to reset and shape the future we want. So it's literally using the same words as Prince Charles to create this small window of opportunity. And they're saying the small window of opportunity, for some fucking stupid prick of a reason, was because of COVID, that it creates this small window of opportunity. Amazing, right? What the fuck has COVID got to do with environmental change and the climate crisis? It's unbelievable. Create the Reset. So this is when they moved it to Ireland, because this was actually UK. It was across all of UK. So you can see where I'm going with this, that this is how big it was and how steered it was. Why all of UK? Who's in power here? Our industry has power and influence, but we need lots of people to choose to use it. Oh my God, they're literally telling you exactly the point of this fake social movement and soft power play and strategy. Because they needed you to feel like you had some self-authorship, that you were actually authorizing and owning this movement that has nothing to do with you, that is completely irrelevant and is a complete and utter scam for the profits of the elite and Prince Charles's environmental eugenics. But we grab this opportunity to help shape a society during COVID, when we're most vulnerable and have been scared shitless, to help shape a society that puts people and our planet's needs first. Oh, I guess because they're trying to use the fact that we didn't have our needs first in COVID, that we were forced. Is this why? Right now, we have a small window of opportunity to reset and shape the future we want. Drawing the Great Reset Island team, Purpose Disruptors, IAPI and for more. And more for. The Great Reset Island launched 10th of September 2020. Terrible. But there you go. Never stops. So that's that. D&AD, a public British charity, also integrated the campaign, as I said before, launched June 2020 to their new Bloodline program, with McCann Manchester writing up the brief. So I've looked into the events. So when around March 2020, so when the company was registered, Purpose Disruptors advertised for more creatives to join their plight. And they said that the creative brief was done by Tim somebody from McCann. He was the chief head strategist, moved from, is it Drogba 5 or something like that? Drogba 5, an advertising agency. He just moved over, which is also interesting. He moved over to be head of strategy, but he wrote the brief for this whole campaign. So there's also a when in its supposedly humble beginnings back in 2019, before they were even a company or existed, but still existed, Purpose Disruptors were heading this whole fake social movement with ComsLab or ComLab? And they have policy advisors and strategists involved in their agency, their creative agency, whatever agency, pretty much like Purpose Australia, that infiltrated and interfered with our government through the shell charity Archwell. Very, very similar patterns, very similar situations. So you've got McCann Manchester, which is huge, writing up this brief. Now, this is a part of the open letter that they had all their signatures for. Over 60 industry leaders have voiced their support for the summit. So they pretended like there was going to be a summit, and then that was when supposedly they had the idea of a campaign. Including Lucky General's Chief Executive Katie Lee, Mediacom UK Chief Executive John Krzyzewski, Droga 5, that's it, Droga 5 London Chief Executive Officer David Cobalts, and Porter's Chief Creative Officer Mary Porters. But they also had all these other ones that I have listed below, which I will say. So they've got, Biden and Kennedy, that was a big one. But there's this whole list, right? Now, this is when they were still back in 2020 trying to use COVID as the cause or the reason as to why they were all doing this. It's all bullshit. Late Tuesday afternoon, this is one of the founders of this company, non-for-profit get-together thing, whatever they want to call it. We at Purpose Data invited 50 people from competing agencies across all disciplines and beyond together for a virtual industry event. Oh, so they're trying to psychologically manipulate us into believing that we're finally in charge of our own decisions and our own self-authorship after we were forced into COVID. So that was the reason why they were using COVID. Pure manipulation. Okay. Since 2018, we have been building a community. I have yet to see the evidence that they were around in 2018. They only existed on Twitter, of all places, by June 2018. I very much doubt that they were around. 2019 June. So I very much doubt that they were in 2018, but maybe I'll be wrong, and someone can provide that evidence for me. At the end of May, we are launching a campaign, the Great Reset. So they had already said that they were going to launch then, but they launched after Prince Charles. They launched after Prince Charles, so they were probably advised otherwise to wait, and they launched it June the 8th. I'm pretty sure 2020. But they postponed it, and they were meant to do it in May. So they obviously, Prince Charles wanted to do it first, which fucks him up even more, because then it means that he claimed ownership of this whole campaign. Lisa Merrick Lawless, complexity theorist. Dr. Auret Gall. They were talking about systems theory. Yeah, this is how deeply involved this is. It's very WEF. And the New Blood Academy kicks off September 2020. D and AD. So you can see that even though this whole campaign was fully sponsored by this public organisation and charity, that purpose disruptors are then promoting D&AD's own campaign that was integrated into and from this campaign of theirs. That they like, it's just like, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's just a very, I guess it's a profitable business. So the great turning key players, D&AD, McCann Manchester, Gravity Road, Think House, Iris Worldwide, Purpose Disruptors, ComLab, Biden and Kennedy, with hashtag campaign Create the Reset. Now look here, you'll see that this is September 2019, before COVID. No masks, nothing. Reflecting, this is Robert McFall, or McFall. He is one of the co-founders of Purpose Disruptors as well. It's just interesting. It's always the name Purpose, right? And these guys are so organic and grassroots. So he's some sort of agency guy, and there's a climate emergency supposedly happening now since September 2019. He mentions the 3 dimensions of the Great Turning. Joanna Macy. Our toughest brief yet. So they've received a brief. From whom? So by September, they've got a full brief for this campaign. And that's D&AD Impact. Ian Tate, Executive Creative Director, Biden and Kennedy. Naresh Ramchandani, Partner, Pentagram Design. Natalie Graham, Founder, Uncommon London. Nick Hodgkins, Branding Marketing Lead, Lad Bible Group. What? Lad Bible, really? They really want this social movement. Okay, Peter Souter, Chairman and CCO, TBWA. What's TBWA? I know that. International Advertising Agency. Headquarters in Midtown Manhattan, New York City, United States. Omnicom Group. Omnicom Group. American Media Holding Company. Let's see here. Oh, Omnicom Group, World Economic Forum. Omnicom Group is a leading, bullshit. It's a partner. It's a World Economic Forum partner. I see. So it's a WEF partner. You can look that up yourself. So we're already seeing here conflicts of interest, very steering controlled campaign for Prince Charles's World Economic Forum and his Agenda 2030. Already pre-planned, predestined in 2019 before COVID, and they're going to use it. Rob McFall, whatever the fuck his name is, client director, Mindshare, and co-founder Purpose Disruptors. Sophie Thomas, founding director Thomas Matthews. I'm guessing Liam Skeeping, creative strategist and activist. Extinction Rebellion. That is very, very, very interesting, because I will explain to you why that is interesting in a moment. I actually didn't see that name previously. Fucking wow. It's all just a massive conflict of interest. Nationwide campaign. So this is the PDF from the Great Reset website that you're not going to ever see. But it was actually screenshot by somebody. This is the report of the campaign. And it does mention D&AD, but I can't look into it because it's just a screenshot. It's something that I can't exactly look into. But I just want to show you here. The Great Reset, reshaping the marketing communications industry to serve people and planet. So it's a full-scale industrial movement orchestrated for World Economic Forum agenda and policy, which we'll come to in a minute. So the very same year, the nincompoop says this is a Mexit plan. The Mexit plan was launched with the registration of Wilhelm's Earthshot paid via the spare fleeing to America. All of a sudden, the royals are relevant in America. Earthshot Con is accepted and normalized soon after. So this is July 11th, 2019. So this is well and truly a month in, just under a month in since the Purpose Disruptors are existing on Twitter. And then you think about as well, July. So this is just a month after Fauci's fake christening. This is around all of this time, right? We have only 18 months to save the world. Prince Charles warns, of course, Commonwealth leaders, because that's his influence. That's his reason for existing. Remember how I said about, the British monarchy not collapsing during World War II. This is why. 6 months after the nationwide effort to convince Britain hits Luminate, the same WEF company who interferes in Australia's policies to make them globalist, i.e. misinformation bill with a shell royal charity Archwell. So what I've already talked to you about, Purpose Australia is under Luminate, under the same people, etc., etc. Funds a report analysing the public's reaction if they're buying what they're selling. So under the Cambridge University or University of Cambridge, they do the Great Reset, public opinion and populism, and the pandemic. So they literally, you see here, so Luminate is WEF as well. So you can see here that they have orchestrated this entire fake grassroots social movement campaign via the advertising marketing industry, using the pandemic to try to convince you and see its effects and if it's worked out well. There's Luminate there on that green page. Wait a minute. June 12th, 2019 was the day that net zero was legislated in UK. So that's interesting because the Purpose Disruptors account was created on Twitter in June 2019. And this could be why exactly straight after this policy has been put in place as to why they're creating this summit and having this opening letter and creating this UK-wide industry movement ready for Prince Charles's little speech in the following year of the Great Turning, which then turned out to be the Great Reset when it was rebranded. This was the first post ever by Purpose Disruptors, and it was on the June the 12th, 2019. So you can see that the account was in fact created on June the 12th. You see there. And this, when we go back to these posts, that is only 2 days after this policy, this net zero policy was passed, or bill was passed and legislated. So now you can join all the dots. That's why it's the full agenda. They created an open letter with like 60 industry leaders signing it, like I showed you before. By 25th of June, at the Royal Institution, they were going to have this summit based on that letter to make a change. See, there's those signatures again, like I showed you before. Oh, that was it. Tim Whirlidge was the guy who created the brief by 2020. June the 6th, though, June the 6th, 2019, he was thanking everyone for signing the open letter. At this time, I'm sure he was still at Drogba 5, or in between jobs, in between being promoted to McCann, Manchester. Interesting. But he's the one who made this happen and then wrote a brief for it. Supposedly it's all grassroots, but this is June the 6th, so this is 6 days before net zero legislation was even passed. So why all these sudden urges? If climate change and Agenda 2030 has been around since 2015, 2012, obviously there's reasons, right? Oh, come on, man. June the 5th, 2019. So now we're looking at a day earlier, 7 days before the legislation was passed. There's an article about the top industry leaders signing an open letter. So this is the open letter that we're talking about to tackle climate change. They say in this, so purpose disruptors and comms lab. So comms lab is that it has policy strategists and advisors in there. It will address how the ad industry can help limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. Very strong. Not so, oh, we're trying to help out. COVID was really affected because obviously COVID wasn't there then by then. But it's very strong. That was the whole point. But they rebranded and changed the whole purpose, supposedly. Purpose disruptors, that's for sure. It's funny because Jonathan Wise is a co-founder of Purpose Disruptors, but he's not a officer at all under the company of the Comms Lab. So that's a bit. So at this point, we've established now 7 days before net zero legislation passed, they've got this open letter already created and compiled with all these 50 to 60 signatures done. Now, weirdly enough, oh, hold on a minute. Oh, yeah. Weirdly enough, this open letter done by the ad agencies wasn't in fact meant to be initiated by themselves either. So that was also a new story. It was actually influenced supposedly by another letter. But guess who that letter's from? Extinction Rebellion. So this very same company that was that's a part of the solution, a part of the brief that we just saw in that picture with D and AD briefing in September 2019. They're a part of the solution. Very staged. It says nothing about the Agenda 2030. Just tells them to do something about it. Then they never do anything about it. And then all of a sudden, so this is like, let me see here. So it was like May, I think it was May the 4th or 5th as to when this letter was actually taken out. I'm pretty sure, was it? Hold on, give me a second here. Or am I thinking about the other one? Oh, I can't see. Oh, okay, yep. So 17th of May 2019. So this is just before a month before the net zero policy changes, right? Oh, bill passes. They're demanding change all of a sudden. So between 17th of May and 5th of June, the letter's already compiled and good to go with 50 signatures or 60 signatures, and the summit's being organised. So that's 2 weeks, 2 business weeks. You can see here the fake story. They started in a pub in June 2019, inspired by a letter from Extinction Rebellion. But this was May, 17th of May. And by 5th of June, you had the whole letter completed and signed by 60 members, 60 leaders. Extinction Rebellion only became a registered company in November 2021 as well. So how the fuck did they have this like strategist dude, Liam Skeeling or Spieling, whatever the fuck his name was? Amazing, right? Just around the time Royal Foundation's Earthshot plan was launching, remember March 2019, the Royal Foundation, that report has Earthshot, when the houses split through Megxit, Earthshot was going to be registered, Travelers was going to be registered, both Harry paving the way for America for Earthshot to happen. Net zero policy happens around the same time this is all happening. Then Charles's Great Reset ready for the next year, June 2020. And that letter so there's 3 letters. One by the open letter by the ad agencies through purpose disruptors. That was inspired by a letter by their affiliate and associate. That's not meant to be their affiliate and associate, Extinction Rebellion. And that was actually inspired by a letter from an open letter from, is it the Wretched? Let me show you here. They literally demand changes, I think these sorts of changes, implement a transition of justice at its core. So this is really what it's about. Pass a global Green New Deal to ensure finance and technology for the global south through international cooperation. That's interesting. How does a nationwide ad industry do that for them? Hold transnational corporations accountable, take the planet off the stock market, which they didn't. They actually put it on the stock market, and the hostile environment. Which has nothing to do with the actual environment. Anyway, whatever. Guarantee flourishing north and global south in which everyone has the right to free education. Oh, righto. Those were the demands anyway in that letter, to get the agencies to do that. And it was done by this big group, umbrella of groups. The Wretched of the Earth. All I saw was Black Lives Matter UK, and that was enough for me. But these are all the groups. that was a part of it. May 5th, 2019, they wrote, this is the first letter that was wrote to them in 5th of May, and yet exactly a month after was when that open letter from the ad agencies were published. And May the 5th, May the 6th was the birth of Fauci, wasn't it? So this was actually a day before, not 3 days before. So I've actually got that wrong, but a day before Fauci's, or maybe it's different with the time zone. 2 days to 1 day before Fauci's fake birth, the one that's, all about surrogacy, supposedly. All of this is taking place, and then the christening takes place. All these distractions take place while this is all happening. Net zero legislation is passed. You're focused on Meghan Markle and that doll. I'm thinking about, 3 days before the photo call with the doll. Put the pieces together. June the 12th, 2019, net zero policy or legislation passes. 11th of July, 2019. We have 18 months to save the world, just in time for my speech. And the launch of Earthshot. Robert McPhail, Purpose Disruptors, September 14th, 2019. We've got the brief. We're going to create the Great Reset for World Economic Forum with all of our partners. Here's a report you can never see again, literally saying that this is a social movement that we want you to have self-authorship over and to feel like you own it. And we're going to manipulate you, deceiving you, thinking that it's about COVID and the force for reclaiming your own independence and personal sovereignty. Bullshit. Puzzle piece. This is a quote from the royal.uk website. Through HRH's Sustainable Markets Initiative and the WEF, so through the World Economic Forum, meaning that Prince Charles would control the World Economic Forum if he can do it through it as a means, the Prince of Wales launched a new global initiative, the Great Reset. That was 3rd of June 2020. So June the 3rd, he launches the Great Reset. July the 8th, after they've postponed it from, so it's July the 8th, not June the 8th, sorry. So they were meant to launch it in May. They postponed it for July so Charles can have his moment. Purpose Disruptors launches the ad industry strategized social steering campaign of the Great Reset to make it look like it's some separate bullshit. But that also proves that if Charles put it out first, that it was obviously a part of the same fucking campaign. Launches the ad industry strategized social engineering campaign of Great Reset to align with Charles WEF's Sustainable Markets Initiative and his Terra Carta. And Wilhelm's Earthshot, don't forget, after he changed British policy in 2019. It's all very, very strategic. There's the website. There's that iris one. The launch was supported by virtual Great Reset gatherings held daily between the 8th and 16th of July. So imagine the sort of collusion we're talking about here. A whole nation, or not just a nation, nations under Britain, under UK, whatever you want to call it, Ireland, England, you know, you name it. But no collusion. Wink, wink. Thanks, guys.